Hello guys. In this series we'll be focusing on algebra and trying to get a basic overview of what algebra is and its importance. The reason we need to learn algebra is because it's really the basics of more advanced maths. So once we get into slightly more advanced maths, before we do that we need to know some algebra, especially from grade 10 to 11 to grade 12. And even as you go on to university. And also, the other important thing is that in physics, the most basic physics problems end up requiring you to solve algebraic problems or algebraic expressions. So, what then is algebra? A very quick note: whenever you start seeing, when you're dealing with maths and you start seeing letters like X, Y, and Z, that means there's some algebra in there. Once you start seeing letters in maths, that means you're dealing with a section called algebra. But it could be something more advanced, but basically it's algebra, some more higher form of mathematics. Okay, so algebra is basically when you take an arithmetic expression. So we take an expression in arithmetic, such as 1 plus 2, which is arithmetic is like the maths that we did in primary school, which was very simple and direct, where you spoke about specific numbers. So if you said 7 plus 2, 7 is a specific number, 2 is a specific number. So that's basically arithmetic, where we added these normal numbers that we use every day, we divided them, we multiplied them, or we even subtracted them. So but now the difference with algebra is that in algebra, we're taking an expression in arithmetic and we're writing it in a generalized way. What does generalized mean? Generalized means that it's no longer specific. So you say 1 plus a certain number. Instead of saying 1 plus 2, you say 1 plus a certain number. So that's a generalization. So that number could be any number. Now if this is not making sense, just hold on. And maybe in the next slide, when we explain it in a more step-by-step or systematic way, it will make more sense. So, but basically, algebra is, or an algebraic expression is, a generalized arithmetic expression. How do you achieve this generalization? Well, you do so using variables. And variables we'll explain in the next we'll explain to you soon, are basically placeholders or unknowns. But variables refer to those letters that you see once you start seeing these letters like X, Y, and Z in maths. Those are variables. And the word variable means something that can change. So when you have numbers and addition signs and subtraction signs mixed up with variables or letters like X, Y, and Z, that means you're now dealing with algebra. Let's explain this a bit better. So if you have an expression in arithmetic and an expression in algebra, and now we want to compare and contrast the expressions in algebra and the expressions in arithmetic. So how do we do that? So let's say we have 7 plus 1 and we know that's equal to 8. This is an example of an expression in arithmetic. You have a number 7, it's a very specific number, plus 1, which is also a very specific number, and it gives us 8, which is a very specific number. There's no tricks or anything here. This is just simple, straightforward primary school maths or arithmetic. Now, in an algebraic expression, we say 7 plus x, or like we said before, 7 plus some number. So 7 plus x, that we're now dealing with algebra. Remember we said x can be any number, so if you let x equal to 1, then that whole expression changes and we have 7 plus 1. So that means we have to substitute this x into, or this 1 into x there. That becomes 8. So if you say x is equal to 2, or if we let x equal to 2, so we have to substitute this value of x, which is 2, into that expression, and we get 7 plus 2, which is 9. If we say that x is equal to 6, that means we have to substitute this 6 into that expression, so we get 7 plus 6, which gives us 13. Now notice that we could choose different values for x. So we could change the values that we use for x. And another word for change is to vary. So we could vary the numbers that we use for x, or we could make x a variable. So that's what a variable is. A variable is something that changes. You can change, you choose different values for x. And notice that when we use different values of x, it now changes the whole expression. So then let's focus on what variables are. Variables are unknowns. So we don't know what number x is. We didn't know what number x was here. So it's an unknown. So x is an unknown. Variables are unknowns. Variables are placeholders. So you can substitute different numbers in x. X is holding the place of something. It's a placeholder. So you can choose different numbers to put in place of that placeholder. And also variables are usually shown as letters. So that's what we mean when we say we are writing arithmetic expressions in a generalized way, and that's what algebra is. And now we start working with letters. So let's have a look at a basic algebraic expression that will allow us to be able to name components of an algebraic expression. Say we have 8x plus 1. So here the number that's close to the variable, or that's near the variable, so this is 8 times x. The number that's near the variable is called a coefficient. And the letter of x, or the variable, is called a variable. X or some letter is called a variable. Then this number all on its own after the plus sign is called a constant. So constant is just a normal number. It's just a normal number that we use every day. And then between them is an operator. So an operator is normally addition or subtraction, and what it does is it separates the terms. So 8 plus x is one term, and this 1 here is another term, so we have two terms. So that's what an operator does. And so these are the basic elements of an algebraic expression. Something that's also important when you deal with algebra is to know about the different ways of representing multiplication, because multiplication is very important in algebra. So if you have 8x, you could also write it as 8 with a little full stop between them, or like a full stop between them, x. So 8 dot x, or not, dot is not the right word, 8 with a little dot and x is the same as 8 times x. So all these here just refer to 8 times x. So that's the way of saying 8 times x, that's the way of saying 8 times x. And this is the normal way we know how to show multiplication with the multiplication sign, but all these represent multiplication. Now the other way you could write 8 times x is if you had brackets. If you had brackets like here, 8 brackets x is read as 8 times x, which is the same as 8 times x with the normal multiplication sign, which is the same as 8 times x with this dot in between, which is the same as 8x. Now multiplication is quite important in algebra. You just need to know these notations, brackets and dots. That's what we're introducing to you. And if you don't have anything and and the two numbers or two elements are sitting next to each other, it's also multiplication. So another property that's important in algebra is called the distributive property. So it just allows you to take a number and distribute it into brackets. So when you see brackets with more than one term in the bracket, and you see a number next to that bracket, so you could use a distributive property or the distributive property to multiply that out. So what we do there is we take this 8 and we'd multiply it by x, and then we'd also multiply that same 8 by 1. So we're taking this, we're distributing this 8 into these brackets. So it becomes 8x plus 8. So we multiplied 8 by x and we multiplied 8 by 1, and that gave us 8x plus 8. So we distributed 8 into the brackets and we just multiplied it out. So that's the distributive property. So we simply multiply the number outside the brackets by each term inside the brackets. So that's basically a quick introduction to algebra. We'll do more problems. Now remember that we're trying to keep the concepts simple, and then we'll build on this. Once we understand the simple concepts, we'll do more examples to practice. So what we want you to learn is the basic principle that the iMaths way of doing things is you focus on the concept in a simple way, so you understand the general concept well and you don't complicate things, and then you move on to problems, and once you start solving problems you start applying and understanding the concepts more. Just focus and allow your mind to focus and concentrate.